All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mir Search for Huru. And I have the sister with us, Miss Jackie Johnson, and we're going to be discussing tonight's topic is Africa Now 2020 and beyond. There's a saying that Africa is the future, which it is. And, a lot of us are going to miss out on many opportunities because either we're just ignorant, which a lot of it is not our fault, or we choose to be ignorant, which in that case is our fault. But again, there are a lot of opportunities that are available and going to be available on the continent that, I want to ring the bell and make sure that we do not miss out on. So Miss Johnson is connected when it comes to that. And so she's going to fill us in on opportunities, what to do, how to prepare ourselves, prepare yourself, and all that good stuff. So Miss Johnson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dinus. And I'm here, of course, on behalf of Profile Africa Worldwide, my company. We're a brand strategy, public relations, and business development agency. It's a Pan-African agency, so we're very much focused on the African continent and its diaspora. And I'm so honored to be with you tonight, my friend. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. This is your second time being on the show. So thank you for coming back.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to us having this dialogue a little more intensely on a regular basis, given the growth plan and what's really happening in Africa right now and what's going to be happening in 2020 at the turn of the next decade and beyond. Some amazing opportunities are at hand right now, but even more will be on the horizon come 2020. And it's definitely worthy of this discussion. And I really hope your audience take a good look at what we're saying and understand if they want to grow beyond what's happening right now, particularly in America, and they're looking to the future for themselves and building generational wealth. I can assure them that the opportunities are there and available in Africa.
Let me start off with this question, Miss Johnson, Miss Jackie Johnson. The naysayers, we built America, therefore, why should I look outside of America, or specifically, why should I look to Africa for opportunities? Because we've done so much here in America, we've vested so much here in America. What would be your response to a comment like that?
Well, those are fair comments. I have to tell you. I believe that we did build America and that we are still do our 40 acres and a mule, Dinus.
We are.
I believe we are. And I do laud people like Oprah Winfrey and others who have made a significant contribution to the African American community, as well as helping to build a bridge for our understanding in the Africa space, as well as acquiring wealth in America that's due us for our ancestors. I do believe in that. However, this country, the United States as it is, doesn't really embrace African Americans and our culture. Even the Juneteenth that's coming up in a few days, is our Independence Day that's still not given its just due and recognition in the United States. And I just think that for the work and opportunity that we have in Africa to grow and to be a part of Africa's growth story economically and socially and spiritually and otherwise, that to me, that is the better market to look at. I think that we've done a lot in America, but I just don't think we're ever going to get out of America what we're talking about.
Right.
With the killing of Black men and the high incarceration of, I'm going to say even Black people, because Black women, the incarceration of Black women in America has skyrocketed in the last 10 years. More than double, quadruple, I believe, if the statistics are accurate. And so that's probably not going to change and go anywhere. In my view, my hands are getting a bit weary fighting these kinds of battles here in the United States when I know the land flowing with milk and honey, with honor and respect, also waiting us in Africa. And I just think that the Black Panther movie started opening people's eyes to what not only it could have been had it not been colonized, but what it can be by our working together, Africans together with African Americans. And for me personally, the way I intend to spend the rest of my life is certainly not chomping at the bits in the United States exclusively. It's to the work I do in America, every ounce of it stems back to Africa. Everything that I do here has to take on a significant meaning to continuing to push and move the ball for the African agenda. And that's how I see America. What America owes us is an opportunity to use our resources here and our relationships to go home and advance Africa in a strategic alliance and partnership framework. That's what I believe.
Everybody, as you there's a are you watching the video on the main screen, Ms. Johnson?
Yes,
Do you see the chat room? Or are you just watching on the Hangouts?
I'm on the Hangout.
Okay, all right, cool. All right. There's an echo, some feedback for some reason, but we should be good. Everybody, please get the likes up as you enter the chat room. Please hit the like button. Also share the video. So, Miss Johnson, what got you interested personally into Africa, especially the future of Africa as well?
Well, I'm celebrating 13 years in a few weeks of my very first journey to Africa. I received a diplomatic invitation in 2005 to come to South Africa and take a look at the opportunities. And I did that. I got on a plane by myself, also in search of my own divine destiny. I felt like I was at a good point in my life where I could take on some risk in terms of going into the unknown and seeing what I could do, where my influence, relationships, and experience could actually add value. And from the moment my feet touched the soil, I completely knew that I was home. I had some really powerful spiritual experiences on my first trip there to KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, that also let me know that I had a bright future in working with Africa. At the time, I had no idea how. I just knew that that is where I belong. And I continued to go and go and go. And then in 2009, from 2005 to 2009, I started staying there long term and spent 5 years uninterrupted on the continent there in South Africa, and then another 2 years going back and forth. That's pretty much what I've continued to do. But in terms of the future, I feel like everything that happened here in the United States in the 70s and the 80s with the onset of the internet and all that, we have a great opportunity to be a part of that type of growth in Africa. And it's still important to be first there. It's still very important to be first. And it's still also very important to take your time and learn culture there. And that also has made an indelible mark on me and my life and my persona as an African American woman. And I also believe it's absolutely made me a better African American, having had my time of living full time in South Africa.
So what can someone expect, or what opportunities are going to make themselves available here in the future in Africa when 2020 comes along?
Well, we're currently right now from an technology and internet perspective, we're currently on the 4G network. And pretty soon, between now and 2020, they're going to roll out 5G. And 5G is going to change everything globally, but absolutely change a lot in terms of how we interact and interface with Africa, because it brings us into it brings us closer to virtual reality. And that changes the game for any kind of uh, cyber media platform, from media shows, television shows, to music, to all the ways in which we engage with the internet. And so when we look at how we engage with Africa right now, the onset of 5G totally changes that and opens up more opportunities, because what a lot of people don't know here in America is that the average African person has two or three phones,
True.
and two or three different cell phones, and they're using them for their mobile technology capacity on different networks. And so having internet driven based shows, TV, shows of any nature, from selling things to these type of dialogues that you have in your show, and
Right.
some other things that I'm rolling out, and even our strategic partner there in Senegal, Madi, and it's
Mhm.
just going to be some amazing things happening from a media standpoint. And so how people position and build their brand right now absolutely has an effect on how far they go in terms of how far they interface with Africa from a technological standpoint. And many opportunities now, and be 2020 and beyond, won't necessarily require you to have to be in person. So any type of e-commerce opportunity that is being developed for an individual or a company is what's really going to take the ball away in 2020 and beyond. And definitely something to prepare for in terms of building your brand and your presence in Africa, as well as looking at critical products and services that can be offered from a cyber technology standpoint.
How does one prepare themselves to uh, for these opportunities in Africa?
Well, they're vast. So I think, I always still recommend to people to actually go to a particular country and city and understand things from a on the ground perspective. I can't imagine anyone successfully doing business in Africa and not going to Africa. That's still the order of the day. And it's also still important to learn culture
Mhm.
as well, and to look at the skills that you have and how best to deploy them into the other foreign country, into the African country. Um, People need to just put their boots on the ground. I still say that they need to do that. Also, to clear up the misnomers that they have from the historical stories on Africa. And that story, we should all know by now, has changed drastically. And I'm really happy to see big groups of African Americans taking trips to Africa, having even cultural experiences, so that they can begin starting to see how they can add value to that society and collectively build generational wealth, because the opportunities are definitely there for that.
Lewis Randall says, "Great men." Ah, there's an echo. Um, Lewis Randall says, "Great men, better brain, smart lady."
Thank you.
It,
Um,
do you hear the echo on your end?
I do not at all.
You don't know? Okay, that's weird. Okay, all right. So B mode, stop it. All right, let's see here. So where should be some places that people who haven't been to Africa but are interested in going? What countries would you recommend going to first?
Well, I live in South Africa, so the reason why I'm going to say South Africa first is because I consider it to be a soft landing. And when I say a soft landing, it is well developed. but it also has a lot of culture. And then it has, still needs that we could fill, opportunities of meeting people needs from a social construct, as well as it inspires hope for you to want to know how to do things that way in other African countries. When people lay their eyes on South Africa, for me at least, it gives me hope and allows me to dream and be able to partner with others to know that it can be done, progress can be made, and together we can make a difference, in one country to the next. But I would start with South Africa or even Ghana. I think Ghana has an amazing program for receiving African Americans, and that's also very important. And so does South Africa from the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which is the province that received me in my first trip there, 2005. And they have an African Renaissance program and platform that receives African Americans and helps them acclimate to, the country if they so choose to continue living there, to live there. And Ghana has a program from even, I think, a junior citizenship perspective that allows African Americans to come back and receive citizenship. And I also would say Senegal. I think Senegal is doing some amazing things, as well as the Gambia. They have a new president. He was educated, I believe, in the United States, and
They all are.
yeah, many of them are. And it was a real estate developer, and they have beautiful shoreline development opportunities in the Gambia, and so that's a premier sector to engage in business. But it just depends on people's pockets and their experiences. But real estate development, from building hotels, and I mean, you don't even need to build a skyscraping hotel. It could be an 80-bed, 3-star hotel with a few partners, or if they have the cash flow to do it. I'm telling you, that business is amazing. 80% of the time, you're going to be 80% occupied, and the other 20%, you're going to be 100% occupied in a hotel. Of course, be mindful of your geography, but if you're choosing a major city like Johannesburg, Cape Town, anywhere in Senegal, Ghana, Kenya, Ethiopia is coming up quite a bit, where the African Union is. And we're lagging behind because China
Right.
is Africa's #1 development partner. And while we were manning the George Bush, Iran and Iraq wars, they were cutting big deals, long-term development, 20, 50, 30, year development deals with Africa that they're starting to churn out. So we've got a long way to go as a country from an economic diplomacy standpoint and a foreign direct investment growth partner with Africa. We lag behind as a country, as the United States. We absolutely lag behind, way far behind from China. But on an individual level, there's just immense opportunities from Black hair care and beauty products, exporting them there. That's really big business. As I said, to the hotel industry, medical supplies, working with government on infrastructure deals. It's, all forms of development. Telecommunications is still really a big sector in Africa, continuing to supply cell phones, believe it or not. Even though the average person has 2 or 3 phones, there's a coming generation behind them. The millennials are really driving that, also from a entrepreneur development standpoint. Lots of opportunity to engage with government in helping to develop entrepreneurs, because millennials want to be self-employed, and they are the fastest, largest growing group demographics in Africa. And by 2030, More than half of Africa is going to be under the age of 30. And that says a lot about the growth and potential of long-term investment with millennials. Well, because they are the most educated the group of youth in Africa in terms of the segment of generations, the millennials between 35 and 20, they are the most educated that Africa has right now. And they have a long gait for investing as well as moving industries, driving industries, and telecommunications is one of them. From all even the cyber activity that they bring, the shows, the online internet-based businesses, entrepreneurship, they are very much driving and thriving that aspect in Africa.
So they had a couple questions in the chat room. This feedback, goodness. So we had a couple questions.
Only you hear it because I don't.
Well, they hear it in the chat room too, for some reason.
They do. Okay.
Yeah. But we're going to continue anyway. So a couple questions in the chat room. You mentioned South Africa. Now, obviously, we have the land reform that's on the table, and then we've had the xenophobic attacks. Those are some of the concerns that were raised in the chat room. Could you address those two topics? And then also, too, guys, we have 116 people watching, only 57 likes. Can we please get the likes up? And Chief Dinero, thank you so much for the super chat. All right, go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, well, can you repeat the first question?
Land reform. People are concerned about that in regards to investing in South Africa, and then the xenophobic attacks.
Okay, let me start with the xenophobic attacks. That occurred during a time that I'll just say a lot of things were going on in South Africa politically. And what I know that the Home Affairs, which is their State Department in South Africa, has done now, they've started to work with the various embassies on the new visa. As you know, as some of the other African countries are starting to accept regional visas, where if you're from one country to the other, you can travel freely around a certain region. So they're working on implementing that, as well as just more creation of jobs, because I think that's what the xenophobic issue was really about, jobs. And as we have a new president now, President Cyril Ramaphosa, and he is a businessman. So I know that he's been good for business, he's been good for the RAND, and he's been addressing some of those challenges around the xenophobic attacks, but they have not been going on, you know, like this year, last year. I know that there were some sensitivities and riots and things going on there in 2016 and 2015, but I think that they've worked that out now. And but it's about jobs. I still say it's about jobs. And the more development opportunities come to South Africa, the more the groups become more educated, then it's more a fair opportunity for everyone. I will say this, that one thing I love about South Africa is an aspect in their constitution that says that South Africa is home to all those who choose to live in it. And my experience has been, as an American, that they actually mean that. And I believe that that has been the cornerstone to helping to heal some of the issues around xenophobia. Mm-hmm. But that circumstance is absolutely getting better. It hasn't gone away completely 100%. I would say no more than racism has gone away from America, but people are able to travel there and do business successfully.
Mm. Another objection that you'll hear for some people is, since a lot of Africans, we've had the migrant crisis where Africans are literally dying to get out of the country and go to Europe or even come to America. They'll say, because of that, why should Black Americans consider investing in Africa, you know, because of the migrant crisis and Africans wanting to come to America? What would be your response to that?
Well, many of the migrant crises have come from countries that might have been in turmoil at that time. And not much of that has been resolved. And if we really look at who's coming into the United States as an African, it's more people coming to get education and to work, not because they are in exile from their home country. That's not really the issue today, in terms of why most Africans today in 2018 would leave Africa and come to the US. It's mainly for education and extended job opportunities, as everyone from around the world would come to the United States. But it doesn't mean that as an African American, you can't go home to Africa and find a niche opportunity to work in. I will say, as I said before on the show, when you had me on the show last year, that as an African American, you do not go to Africa looking for a job. You don't. I'm still clear on, we have 4% unemployment here in the United States. And the average unemployment rate in Africa is 30%. I don't care how they put more conservative numbers out. So you wouldn't leave a 4% unemployment market to go to a 30% unemployment market looking for a job. You're not going to look for a job. You're going to create an opportunity for yourself and others. And that's the difference. If you are creating an opportunity, then you're not taking someone else's job. And that has also been the issue around xenophobia. At least in South Africa, it was mainly Zimbabweans who's right next door to South Africa, they felt were coming into the country, taking their jobs.
Right.
So we wouldn't want to be guilty of doing the same. 4% unemployment statistics here. It's about how do you package your skills, your business, and your brand in a way to go to Africa and create opportunity for yourself and others, not seek jobs.
Now, what about engaging Africans? Should people go directly to Africa and start engaging them there? What organizations, or how can they connect with people over here in America, I guess, who are passionate about Africa, like me and yourself, that could put them in position to connect with people over in Africa? Like, where do they get started?
Okay, you say, where does someone from America, an African American?
Yeah, like an African American who's interested in engaging Africa, what advice would you give them as far as a process to do so?
Well,
that's effective and they're not wasting their time. But
right. Well, the first thing I would say, get in touch with Profile Africa.
There you
go. Assist in deploying people's brand and business frameworks in Africa. And also working with them to ready them and their brand. They just don't decide that tomorrow, that Friday they're leaving, going anywhere in Africa, if they're going for business now. And even if they're going to do what I call a go see, I think that's very important. And we help our clients, we help facilitate go sees, and also bringing products and services. You got to have people on the ground. You got to have, our agency, we have navigation skills of how to connect with those respective organizations and outfits. Maybe you want to possibly get an opportunity to work with government on a growth plan or something, then you need the proper introduction for that. You need to have the proper frameworks put together for how you engage your business in Africa.
Hmm.
Doing business in Africa is not the same way you do business in America. And Africa is not America. So it's not a whosoever will let them come. Not quite that easy. It's not quite the free society, I would say, on a business level, because anybody can come to America and open up shop and da da da. But in Africa, culture and understanding things on the ground that you can't read in a book or watch on a video, you have to have boots on the ground and someone guiding you in that way. And that is exactly what we do. We also help determine the best business model for what you're trying to get achieved in Africa. Otherwise, you could spend a lot of money, time, and not get anything accomplished. But we work with our clients to assist them in creating the right platforms and models and working on their brand, because also your brand may not take on the same effect in the market in Africa the way that it would here. Maybe even due to just culture or their perception of you as an American, because they're not just seeing you as a Black person, they're absolutely perceiving you as an American. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, just depending on where you are, what you're trying to achieve, and who you're working with.
Now, you mentioned something that, as far as doing business in Africa, is different from doing business here in America. Can you give some examples? And the reason why I asked this question, Jacque, is because I feel like a lot of Black Americans, we're given a certain disclaimer that Asians, whites, Lebanese, and Indians, or non-Blacks, aren't given when they do business or when they go to Africa. So we're told, not to be so militant. I'm sorry about that. We're told not to be so militant. We're told, Africans don't sign contracts. I've heard that. But, when I go to Africa, I see white, Lebanese, Chinese, Indians running wild for the most part, doing whatever they want. So can you give us some examples of how business is done differently?
Well, their history with all those groups are very different than their history with us as African Americans. I can remember when I first started going to South Africa, I would meet people that just embraced me, loved me. But then I also met people that felt like we thought we were better than they were because they were told historically that the best of Africa had been taken into slavery. So they perceived, again, this is perception, they
Hmm.
perceived us as being arrogant, and thought we were better than they were, when we might be sitting with the thought, why did you let them take us, or why did you sell us, or why, when everybody had to work out. And I spent a lot of time, my first 5 or 7 years, just trying to clear that up with people through their experience with me, which meant that I had to be very humble. Sometimes I would give up the right for the wrong because I felt like it was better and a bigger deal for them to accept me, in the situation, and not constantly try to explain, I'm not this, I'm not that. But I just kept walking that out with people to the point that they trusted us, because again, especially in South Africa, coming from an apartheid. When I first came to South Africa, apartheid had only ended 12 years prior.
Mm.
That was, hey, the residue was alive and well there. People were still wounded, distorted, distraught, traumatized. All kinds of things were still very prominent in the society. And then here comes, an African American that they might have perceived, I thought, as an African American, that I was better than they were. So a lot of love had to go out, a lot of compassion and understanding had to be brought forth from my side, because I'm going into their space. And also, you know, like if one person misunderstands you, the village, you know, everybody can misunderstand you. So that part has been humbling. I think that's what is important, that we as African Americans learn that, you know, it depends on wherever you are in Africa, they carry their own ideology of what you as an African American really is like, and that may not always be true. They don't have the stories with the Lebanese and the French and the, you know, all the other groups like they have with the African American. And then at the end of the day, they're saying, you're black, I'm black. Are you coming to get something I can't get just because you are an American? And so we had to learn how to work in partnership. We had to work from a spirit of humility and compassion, and through that begin to heal each other truly. And that work is still going on. That work is going on in my space, even as I stand in the United States working with other Africans. I have to go sometimes still the extra mile to show them I love them, to show them I'm their partner in progress, to show them I'm here to support them. And together we grow, together we win, together we move the ball, together we succeed. And that's an ongoing thing, ongoing, because it's that continental history and even misnomers that they have had of us and we have had of them. It is incumbent upon us, me, you, Dinus, and many others that stand on the front line of Africa in America to continue working on these critical relationships so that we can break those barriers down and join hands and get to work together. It's really, really, really important. And that's not the Chinaman's challenge and his mission, you know, but he's getting his mission accomplished. Whatever his challenges are, they are working around them and making billions together. We need to be doing the same thing as African Americans, working together with Africa.
Why do you think? I mean, black people have this. Hold on, I got this feedback still. Echo. I mean, black people, we have, you know, this. What they say? $1 trillion spending power.
$1.3 trillion, friend.
$1.3 trillion. Why are we still overlooking the opportunities in Africa?
I don't know. You know, and the thing is, as a collective, do we have $1.3 trillion income?
Why not?
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, we're not putting it to good use if we do.
We're spending what we don't even have.
Right.
And for the ability that we've had to change the bottom line for many corporations with our $1.3 trillion is unreal. And we showed the world what we could do as a community with Black Panther.
Right.
Not that other groups weren't going to see Black Panther, but I'm pretty confident, haven't done the study, but I'm pretty confident to say that at least 80% of that sale and record-breaking bank of Black Panther was done by us. And so if we can do that behind a movie or anything, why aren't we taking a closer look at how we can collectively come together and go home and do some significant things? Again, even from creating a private equity fund that invests in hotels and not the Marriott's, because Marriott is sorted. It has absolutely conquered its entrance strategies into Africa. It acquired it acquired the largest African chain of hotels in South Africa. as an entrance strategy, and now they're getting ready to roll out into their own brand, the Marriotts, the Ritz-Carltons, and all that you would normally see, Courtyard, and their entire portfolio. But the way they entered the continent was acquiring another brand and buying them out and making the Marriott hotels. And with travel, Black travel to Africa is off the charts. We have more than doubled, tripled those numbers in the last 5 years. And so that creates a demand around hotels. So to create a private equity fund just to drive the hotel and hospitality industry there, I mean, that's how you put a dent in what we do with Africa. And it creates great, residual income. It creates great equity for legacy building, generational wealth. It employs people. This hotel business, I'm telling you, is amazing, of the growth in Africa. And it doesn't have to be a Hyatt or a Marriott or any name. It needs to be a 3-star with the ability to wash your clothes and cook your food, because people are taking extended trips to Africa now, looking at business opportunities, or they are coming in a corporate environment and they're being positioned over there 3-6 months at a time. One of my media partners has taken on an advisory for ETV in South Africa, and he's there, I would say 60-70% of the year. He comes home to America maybe every 3 months for about a week and a half, 10 days, and then he goes back. So there are a lot of opportunities if we stop spending our money in the United States. I'm telling you, the power of a dollar here is nothing compared to the power of a dollar in South Africa and other countries where their currency, where the dollar is stronger. And people have just got to start reprioritizing what's important for the next 5-10 years. Because once 2020 come, I'm telling you, Africa has risen, and it's going to continue to thrive economically and grow. Everybody's rushing to Africa now as the next global economic growth pole. So there's no other market that's going to outpace Africa now, 2020 and beyond. And so it's just a prime time. Even people who are approaching retirement and they are looking at their retirement funds and what life that buys them here in America versus that life, what that same money, but what quality of life that buys them in Ghana, in South Africa, in other places where the dollar is much, much stronger. It's a sizable difference between the qualities of life with the same amount of money as well.
Shout out to Mr. Donnell, 2018 Super Chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And guys, sorry about the echo as well. It goes away, then it comes. So sorry about that. Guys, please get the likes up. We have 157 people watching and only 93 likes. Shout out to Doug, the best moderator on the planet, for the Super Chat as well. People keep saying, Jackie, that the complaint is why Black America is not reaching out to Africa is because Africa is not reaching out to Black America. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, I completely disagree with that. Mm-hmm. I want people who say that to show themselves and give me a story. I'm serious, because I live, breathe, walk, talk Africa 24/7. And for the most part, when I'm in the United States, I'm based in DC, New York, Atlanta. And I get nothing but love. I promise you guys. I know you don't believe me, but this is the God heaven truth. I'm very serious. It's like when I see an African in America, I get excited and I know I'm with people that understand me and got my back. That's my experience. And I don't mean South Africans because I don't see as many South Africans as I do West Africans in my space.
Mhm.
From Ghana, from Cameroon, Nigeria. Man, these people love me. I love them. I mean, I really have to say, when I see an African, I'm more easy to approach them, or they're going to approach me and talk to me before I will an African American. So that's not my story. What they're talking about is I want African Americans to show themselves more friendly. I really do. Because I have had the experience of 13 years of working on the African agenda. And to date, unless I've had a friend from way back in high school and one girlfriend who's been my friend for 20 years, but all my other closest friends, people that who can arms I can run in, that sisterhood, they are African women in the United States. There are African women in Africa texting me, calling me, when are you coming home? Waiting for me. So I just say, you get what you give. How about that? You get what you give. So I don't want to hear African Americans say that Africans are not kind to them. You get what you give. End of story.
What about let's speak on, you brought up Black Panther. Do you think Black Panther really had an effect or impact on Black Americans being more interested in Africa? I personally don't think so, but you might see something that I don't.
Yes, I do. Okay, we still are absent our true history in Africa. We still don't know, we still need to do our African ancestry so that we all know exactly or somewhat similarly where we're from. And I'm working on getting mine done, and that's going to be a big deal. I'll be real excited.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it's just going to be like front page news. Oh my God, where is Jackie Johnson from in Africa? Be the Zulu she says she is. But anyway, yes, I do, because what I saw, particularly in social media and then in my own uh, going to see Black Panther, I saw Black pride from Africa, not 1960s, Black pride in America, but Black pride from Africa rise up in everyone. And for me, I thought that was beautiful because you got to start from somewhere. And I will say that it removed the the idea that you just don't have any semblance or knowledge of where you're from, even though you may not know exactly precisely. But it certainly shed a better light on the idea that you came from Africa than what you had prior to seeing Black Panther. And it definitely brought, like I said, an element of African pride back to our souls. That it was almost like the Obama days when I know we're gonna part hairs on that, but there was an
Oh
element.
yeah, I won't argue with you. I won't start an argument today. This is being
Right,
too
but there
productive. We
was,
could have another debate on Obama another day.
but there was the effect of him being in the White House gave Black people a sense of pride that now became exaggerated by Black Panther. And it didn't just give us Black pride, it gave us African pride.
Hmm.
That to me was the game changer in the minds of people around how they view Africa prior to. So in my view, it helped my Profile Africa work. It did about 100 years of work for me.
Good.
So I don't know what your thoughts are, but I mean, can't you see where people and granted, they did need to do more than wear, African garment, but that's their expression of acceptance that it's got to start somewhere, Diamonds.
Okay. Okay. I understand.
And
I
so
understand.
after wearing an African idea of an outfit, at least now we can maybe have a discussion on a heart and a mind that's more receptive today that would not have been prior to Black Panther. Are you getting me?
I follow you.
For me and my business, it absolutely makes this conversation easier. 100%.
Mm, mm.
100%. And it absolutely gets forward thinking African Americans more into the thought of, I need to take my business to Africa, wherein before it is like, no, I want nothing to do with Africa. Now they're saying, I'm proud to be from the continent. Maybe I should be looking at doing business in Africa. That's
Right.
where I say Black Panther took off 100 years of hard work that myself and others, you and others, would have still been working on the mind of people about Africa.
All right, Wold Maya, thank you so much thank you for joining us, Wold Maya, as a brother from Ghana who lives in China. He's in the chat room. Also, thank you, Yami, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Let's see which questions do we have in the chat room. Any questions, you guys, for Miss Johnson while we got her? A great resource. Well, Miss Johnson, tell everybody about Profile Africa and what you do with Profile Africa.
Okay, let me just first say it's the passion of my life,
Mm-hmm.
all rolled into one effort. And Profile Africa is a Pan-African brand strategy, public relations, media agency. And what we do is we work on a lot of things, but starting with your brand in terms of an individual person who wants to go to Africa, then we look at your business. What is your company or your skills, or even the current state of your brand? Maybe you are a speaker. Maybe you're an author that has just written an amazing book that you'd like to see be expanded across Africa. Well, we would work with you to develop opportunities for you to promote your book in Africa. Or maybe you have a technology company that you'd like to see how to deploy that business in Africa. And we would assist you with taking that business model to Africa and connect you to the right markets and the right companies or government or wherever that particular technology would be best used. So we assist with that. And then we also develop projects and opportunities. Maybe you're doing something really significant in the United States that would marry well into the African market. Or maybe you're a media personality that would like to start looking at how do you take your environment of what you are championing in media and expose it to the African market. We would work with you on that. So we do just a variety of things in terms of helping people land safely into Africa and develop the on the ground aspect of what they do when they get there. And it's not all just business related. Some people want to take a cultural trip. Some people want to renew their vows in Africa. And some people want to do a go see to see how their current business model, or maybe they're looking to invest in Africa and they've identified a few sectors that they would like to take a look at. Then we help them meet the right people and understand the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in terms of what's best, the best practices for how to safely enter Africa and do business successfully. I do want to talk a little bit about who's winning in Africa and how.
Okay. Okay. And then Wold Maya wants to know, what exactly are you doing in Africa? Let me read this question. I want to know what she's doing in Africa and where she's at the moment.
What am I currently doing in Africa?
Yeah, that's what Wold Maya is asking. What are you currently doing in Africa and where you're at the moment?
Oh, where I am at the moment. I'm in
Uh-huh.
Florida. I'm in
Okay.
Florida at the moment. And I'm still based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And I work on some strategic alliance partnership opportunities right now with some national organizations here in the US that is going to be working on some growth plans in South Africa in the next, by 2020. I'll put it that way. It's going to be very much out there. One of the things I do is identify key sectors and organizations here in the United States that I know would do well in collaborating and working in Africa, in the African market, from government to private sector to civic.
Okay.
Because that space is a bit untapped in my view. It's a bit untapped. And that seems to be also one of the areas in Africa that people say when they come to America, they don't know how to engage in that space. Here in the United States, like, where are the Black groups and the Black organizations
Right.
for African people of influence to come from Africa to come to America and marry it, into a vision, or to complement their goals and objectives. And so it's like Africa doesn't know about the African American environment, and African American environments don't know about the Africa environment. And so we work on bringing them together strategically.
Okay. All right. Now you wanted, and shout out to B Merch for the super chat. I appreciate it. You said you wanted to speak on
Who's winning in Africa and how?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, who's winning in Africa are people who are open to collaboration. As you know, Dinus, from all of your travels across Africa, that as an African American, particularly, or even the Chinese and Dutch and everybody else who's there, no man is an island in Africa.
Correct.
One distinction I wanted to make, and I think I shared the last time I was on air with you, was that America teaches us how to be independent.
True.
Every man for himself, God for us all. But Africa is absolutely not like that. It teaches us how to be interdependent, that I am because of you. And when we eat together. It's no, going off into the corner and hiding and not eating, eating off by yourself. So we eat together, we prosper together, we fall down together, we get up together. And so people who are winning in Africa are absolutely in partnership with others, that together each achieves more. Even the billionaires with all their money, the billionaires, Tony Elumelu and Strive, all of them, none of them could get what they have or even keep what they have if they're not working in partnership.
Correct.
And that's who's winning in Africa. And if we can work on developing good partnerships here amongst ourselves and with Africa as well, we together collectively will achieve much. That's who's winning in Africa, the ones who have good strategic partners. It also balances out the risk, and it makes you stronger, because two is always better than one, and you have others shouldering and pushing and moving the ball together. But nobody's succeeding largely in Africa as an island, solely by themselves. No one, not even the billionaires. They can't do it. They still need partnerships and people. And they still need us, African Americans. They
True.
still need us, because a lot of the growth that is yet to happen in Africa, it absolutely depends on us and how we go there and how we succeed there and how we help keep Africa thriving. Even from the perspective of being here in America, where first generation Africans that come to America and become African Americans, they work and and since $50 billion of money home.
Right.
So America does offer Africans, and most Africans don't come here and forget their home. They're here for their home. They're here to get jobs and work and send that money back home.
Now, where can people find you? How can people get in contact with you? What's your website, email address, so people who are interested in working with you and building that bridge to the continent, they can reach out to you?
Sure, you can find me at profileafrica.org, and you're welcome to email me at info@profileafrica.org. We're going to be launching our new website on Nelson Mandela's birthday on July 18th. But you can certainly email me at info@profileafrica.org.
All right, putting that in the chat room. Guys, please make sure, if you're serious now, please reach out to Miss Johnson and connect with her. I've known Miss Johnson now for it's been like 4 years?
4 or 5 years.
It's been
2014,
I think.
13 or 14, 2013, I think, 2013.
14. We've known each other now for 4 years. God, has gone by.
I know.
It's gone by fast. But everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you go to profileafrica.org. Make sure you reach out to Miss Johnson if you're interested in any of her services. Also go to Search for Uhuru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Also Africa Personified on those same platforms. Also go to searchforuhuru.com, Africa Personified.Africa. You know you get profileafrica.Africa now, Miss Johnson.
I do have profile.africa.
Oh, you do? Oh, there you go.
Do. When we launch our total new social media platform on Madiba's birthday, that profileafrica.org will still be there, but it'll also come through when you do profile.africa. So yeah.
You guys everyone who's saying thank you for the show, you're welcome. But at the same time, this would not have been possible without Jacque Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from everyone. info@profileafrica.org. Thanks.
All right, so everybody. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Johnson. You were saying something. I'm sorry.
I was just saying thank you very much, and I really hope to see many of your listeners take their journeys to Africa with us. I'm excited about that.
Absolutely. So everybody, till next time, which will be here in the next 20 minutes. I know me and Kyla, we're coming on. Me and Kyla Genesis. So till next time, family. Peace.